So now, we move to the part of the program which a lot of you have been looking forward to, I know I have. The presentation of the 2012 Maryville College Medallion. Awarded since 1990, the Maryville College Medallion recognizes those individuals who have helped immeasurably toward perpetuating the college as a distinctive educational and cultural institution, and who have had a profound influence on the future course of Maryville College. Recipients of the medallion are chosen on the basis of exemplary service to Maryville College, outstanding service to their community and church, and prominence and leadership in their chosen profession or career. Tonight we honor someone whose chosen profession and career has been very familiar to a lot of us here at Maryville College because he did it here. We honor Dr. Terry Bunde, Maryville College Professor Emeritus of Chemistry. Being the ever-inquisitive scientist that he is, Terry has figured out some of what we have planned for him tonight. But we hope not everything. Sometimes in life and in chemistry, surprise is fun. To get us started, I'm going to ask Dr. Timothy Poole, Maryville College alumnus from the class of 1980, to the podium. Dr. Poole.
Me to come here to say a few words this evening. You know, every one of us has this, I'll tell you. And when I review this, just tonight, two words come to mind. Proud legacy. And when I think of Dr. Bunde, I think of a legacy of friendship. And over the last 30 plus years, I want to share a few stories of our visits. I've had the opportunity to visit Dr. Bunde on a number of occasions, and I've enjoyed those conversations. I reflect back to May this year. I was right across over there for Dr. Bunde's last lecture. And as sitting in the audience, I realized I was also at his first lecture. And I thought it may not have been the actual first lecture, but I know it was during that week. But I remember there were different lectures. This one had PowerPoint, a laptop, photographs, and stories. 30 plus years ago, it was a overhead projector, rolling, grease pencil, no stories, no pictures, symbols, hieroglyphics, chemical reactions, scary things. The book was Morrison and Lloyd. It's thick. I still have that book. It's in the garage. And I remember that it took a number of years to move those memories out of my mind, but I joke about that. But Dr. Bunde and Dr. Netter as well, and the team in Sutton helped students like myself to move through those difficult courses. I appreciate that. As I graduated on and moved out of town to a graduate program, I reflected back on Maryville College frequently. My family lives here, and my in-laws live here as well, so my wife and I visit Maryville frequently. But it's usually during the week. And periodically, about every 2 or 3 years, I have a chance to come here on a weekday, and I always come to the college. Park in front of Sutton. Walk in Sutton. The door is always unlocked. Has that changed? Go upstairs, second floor, walk around the rectangle, and I look for Dr. Bunde. And I can say over the last 35 years, yes, the ponytail has grown longer, but the stories often don't change. So I've been thinking about this. When I left back in May, I was driving home, and I was thinking, over the last 30 plus years, what have I learned from Dr. Bunde? What have these stories taught me? Legacy of friendship, proud legacy of Maryville College, yes, yes. There are a couple of themes that came up every time. And I smile, not to make jokes, but I smile. And I link it back to why he's a multi-time winner of the Teacher of the Year Award. And the first stories usually involve something regarding orthopedics. As you know, Dr. Bunde is, I think every time I visit him every 2, 3, or 4 years, there was always a sling or a walking boot. It was a shoulder, elbow, wrist, ankle, the other ankle, an Achilles tendon, hamstring, something. I just wanted to right now thank the rehab unit at Bunde Hospital for helping to keep Dr. Bunde upright and teaching those hundreds of students over the last 35 years. So what does that mean, though? Dr. Bunde was active in intramural sports. I think probably most of those injuries occurred there. Soccer, volleyball, softball. From a student perspective, you could win the Teacher of the Year award for excellent teaching capabilities, teaching service research. But when students see our faculty out amongst the student community, they see our faculty in a different light. They see the faculty care. They're part of the community, part of the college community, part of the student community. Now, we don't have to play sports with our students to be accepted by them, but if we're engaged and involved with the students outside the classroom, I think that helps that bond. And that's what I learned. What can I do? What can we do with students moving forward? And I know he did that with us in 77 through 80. And I'm sure he's done it with everybody from 80 to 2012. The next story, and I would smile about this driving home, it was how something had been repaired recently. And I knew Dr. Bunde had a utility belt of some type with pliers and tweezers and duct tape and soldering equipment, because I think he saved the college thousands of dollars by repairing the equipment. And if you're talking HPLC, mass spec, infrared equipment, it's very expensive and almost as expensive to maintain. So as we give to the college, we think about that. But Dr. Bunde would tell these stories about repairing something. He would tell it not like woefully, oh, I had to repair this. It's like a treasure hunt. It was like a challenge. I fixed this, and we're excited, and that instrument gets to stand another year. And I thought about that. Another take-home message was challenge seeking solution. And I have students who are direct reports, and they'll bring a challenge, and I have children too, and I could hear whining from a mile away. And I say, don't whine. Bring the challenge, but also bring the solution with it. Because that's what Dr. Bunde always did when I visited him. He said, here was our challenge, I just fixed it. I'm continuing to fix things. I appreciated that. So over the years, it seems like every time I visited over there, the stories, if I'd been away for 4 years or 3 years, when I walked in the door, it was like we just stopped talking 5 minutes ago. Dr. Bunde would pick up with the next story. I enjoyed that. And those stories evolved into other things sometimes. Lately, we've talked recently about beer and the science of beer, which is fascinating, really, when you think about it. I'm sure there's a lot of people interested in that. And it's interesting, too. I'm not a beer drinker, but the science is interesting. We'll maybe talk a little bit about Habitat for Humanity. He's worked with his church. You're going to learn more about mission trips. He's a Vietnam veteran, military service. There's a whole lot more to Dr. Bunde behind the scenes. It's reflected somewhat in here. And in 1989, the Knoxville Journal article says, I don't try to entertain, but I tend to be very excited about what I teach. I have a lifelong interest in chemistry, and I think it just shows through. I saw that back in 77 through 80, and I saw that every time I visited Dr. Bunde here. That's something that our students take away from here when they visited Dr. Bunde, and I'm sure other faculty members as well. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to call Dr. Bunde my friend, and he's Dr. Bunde to me, but I think now, since I've done this, I'm allowed to call him Terry. So with that, I want to thank you for your service to the college. I wish you the best in your career moving forward. You'll be fixing things, I'm sure. Be careful with your ankles. And I would like for us all to be able to stay in touch with you moving forward. So congratulations, and thank you very much. This time I would like to introduce Dr. Dean Bolin and bring him to the podium. Dr. Bolin is Professor Emeritus of Sociology and former Dean of the college.
It is an honor to speak to you about Terry Bunde. my friend and colleague for more than 30 years. I've had the privilege of knowing all of the recipients of the Maryville College Medallion since it was first awarded over 20 years ago. Tonight we honor one of only 6 individuals who have received the award on the basis of a career on the Maryville College faculty. I worked with all of the faculty recipients of the medallion, and this occasion prompted me to think about what it is that leads to a distinguished career at Maryville College. In addition to those virtues that might be valued at any college or university, I think that distinguished service at Maryville College involves a kind of harmony or integrity between a person and the central values that have always guided this institution. So I'm going to try to place Terry Bunde's contributions in the context of some of those values. One central value at Maryville and at many liberal arts colleges is teaching. And you've just heard a wonderful tribute to Terry's work in the classroom and beyond. A tribute that wakes an echo of the college statement of purpose. And I quote, "The faculty emphasizes effective teaching and encourages supportive relationships with students. At Maryville, teaching is not a sidelight to a research career. Rather, teaching is the first of rank-ordered criteria for the evaluation of faculty. Research is important, but in evaluating faculty, it's expected to be, and I quote, research that enhances teaching effectiveness." Terry's put teaching first, as has every other medallion winner from the faculty. Terry did research, and he actually had plans for a research career in biochemistry, but he gave up those plans. I think because he discovered that classes filled with exciting students were superior to laboratories filled with complex carbohydrates. Terry was voted Maryville's outstanding teacher 3 times in his career. Only one other person has that honor. He was named Tennessee Professor of the Year by the Council for the Advancement and Support of Education. He received the Outstanding Teacher in Appalachia Award given by the University of Kentucky. And students tend to maintain contact with their best teachers, as we just heard. And Terry can tell you about the distinguished careers of many former students in medicine, the sciences, and elsewhere, the fruit of his labors. Terry contributed to teaching in one unusual way and with a style all his own. Dr. Poole has already said something about this, but it is a very interesting characteristic of our honoree tonight. When resources were short, and on college campuses where expensive scientific equipment is concerned, resources are always short, Terry took on some unusual roles to keep the teaching enterprise going. He was a technician, carpenter, mechanic. He could recycle, refurbish, and rebuild. He would drive long distances to claim an instrument being donated by a research lab. Kept old instruments for parts. He was always an advocate for resources in the sciences. And he secured a $500,000 grant from the Pew Charitable Trust for the renovation of Sutton Science Center. In short, he didn't just work at teaching, he worked to provide what was needed to make good teaching possible. Terry also carried his concern with teaching beyond the college as a leader in the Science Olympiad for middle and high school students that met on this campus and elsewhere, and as a teacher in science workshops for public school teachers, programs that enhance the reputation and visibility of Maryville College. Another central value at Maryville College is found in the statement of purpose, where the first paragraph sets mission. And I quote, "The college affirms the continuing value of a broad range of study in the humanities, the sciences, and the arts, thereby," and I quote, "avoiding narrow specialization." This assumes that specialization can follow later in life, in a career, graduate school, and that intellectual breadth is the foundation to be built in undergraduate study. That assumption is the hallmark of liberal arts colleges. Now, avoiding narrow specialization is quite a trick for those of us who do doctoral study. In the process, we enter into some profound narrowness. So if our careers lead us to a liberal arts college, we have to work at modeling the value of a broad range of study. And this is one of the ways in which Terry Bunde, a liberal arts undergraduate himself, has been a star. Now, of course, Terry taught a lot of chemistry courses, a lot of biochemistry, but he also taught January term courses on the 1960s and civil rights. Vietnam veteran, he taught courses on Vietnam War history and led a student tour to Vietnam. He led canoeing trips to the Boundary Waters and to the southern swamps. He introduced non-science majors to the scientific and social issues of the chemistry of food, pharmacology, the AIDS epidemic, acid rain, ozone depletion, toxic waste. That's not all the list. In this long list of general education courses, he was stretching himself and modeling the very breadth we demand of our students. So he was constantly involved in teaching in what is called the core or general education curriculum. He was one of 5 faculty who served on the general education task force that created the current core curriculum. General education defines the college more than any major, and the great professors like Terry Bunde have all invested deeply in it, and in their own lives avoided narrow specialization. Another central value at Maryville College has been a sense of collegiality among faculty and between faculty and administration. Collegiality is vital where independence of thought and mutual respect are necessary to a task. Nowhere is it more important than in higher education, especially where liberal arts and breadth of learning are valued. Yet many campuses are places of alienation. Factions and conflict are common. Academic departments function in great isolation from one another. Collegiality is hard work. Faculty must accept responsibility and collectively agree to make difficult decisions. Administrators must learn to respect processes that elsewhere would be seen as eroding their authority. Now, in this setting, you need responsible members of the collegium who understand its importance. Terry Bunde was a master of that role. He was always part of the process. He was a division chair, he served on all the major committees, and was involved in college governance in too many ways to name. And as I reviewed Terry's time at Maryville, I found so many instances where he was asked to be part of the big decisions, the things that set our direction, defined who we were to be. Now, at this point, I can't resist the fun of mentioning one of Terry's salient characteristics. Terry is never reticent about his opinions or anything else. In fact, Terry's never reticent. I don't think he knows what reticent means. He looks blank. It's from Latin, Terry. It means remaining silent. Pam says the best thing to do is glaze over. The last time he was reticent was probably prenatal. He has this stupendous Olympian verbosity. If talking were an Olympic event, Terry would be able to hang his new medallion along next to his gold medals. And you're laughing now, but he's going to do an acceptance speech later. But let me return to my topic and say that despite all this, and despite the fact that Terry's views were well known, he always understood compromise and respect, and he knew that what often seemed like the arcane decisions of faculty committees may have profound effects on the lives of students, the faculty of the college. In short, Terry was willing to do the very hard work of collegiality and show its importance to colleagues. A personal note, Terry chaired the search committee when I was appointed dean. I think he tries to suppress that information, but he promised me then that he would be there to listen and support, if not always agree. He was best at that last thing, but he did support and he did listen. He kept the promise to do that, and I've always been grateful for it. And that's just one small story about a professor who lived collegiality, someone who could cross the lines between disciplines and departments, faculty, administration, faculty, and staff. Integrity means that what you believe and what you say and what you do are one. Terry has shown integrity not only in who he is, but also in the role he has played at Maryville College. It's difficult to serve an institution well without holding its central values. Beyond that, one must be a custodian and sustainer, and in changing times, an interpreter and innovator. There's a term that's been part of the common vocabulary on campus for a couple of decades, a term I've heard Terry use in praise of some colleagues. The term is a patriot for the liberal arts. Terry's a great patriot. When Terry gave his last lecture in May, he discussed what he called giants of Maryville College. The great faculty or other leaders who were here when he arrived and set examples that he sought to emulate. 4 of them, Carolyn Blair, Arda Walker, Art Bushing, and Martha Hess, received the award Terry receives tonight. And in pursuing the central values that they held dear has been his goal. He's done well. Dr. Carolyn Blair, one of Terry's giants, by way of encouraging a new dean to take the hiring of faculty very, very seriously, once told me that if you hire the right people, so many of the other things will work out well. In 1977, Dean Blair hired a young biochemist named Terry Bunde. And tonight we mark the fact that things have worked out very well indeed. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Reverend Dr. Emily Anderson, pastor of New Providence Presbyterian Church.
In your program this evening, you've seen a clip of the Daily Times article written some years back when Terry took several of his students with him to Foothills Mall to promote National Chemistry Week. The hook was green slime, glowing pickles. Here's hoping that Terry Bundy's legacy at Maryville College extends far beyond green slime and glowing pickles. But that incident illustrates something that I would like to lift up tonight. As important as his work has been on this campus, it may be that Terry's most significant contribution has been to point us to the world outside of this campus that demands not only the highest scholarship, but also our most dedicated service and the very best of our passion and creativity. Terry's life has been marked by that kind of devotion. He is, as Tim and Dean have said, a Vietnam vet and also a recipient of the Bronze Star. That's the one you get not for war wounds, but for meritorious service. It should be noted that Vietnam is also where Terry met Pam, who was his platoon sergeant. The story I hear is that they met when she had him cleaning latrines. I don't know what the division of labor is in the Bundy household these days, but Pam has done an admirable job of keeping Terry in line all these years. It seems to me that service might be the word that comes closest to describing Terry's life. His name has become synonymous with mission trips and mission work at New Providence Presbyterian, whether that means cleaning latrines or building them. He has served on any number of peace and justice committees and represented the Presbyterian Church on a trip to the Soviet Union for a peace seminar, learning from one another and learning how to live together in this world. Terry is a regular volunteer at our welcome table, which feeds almost 300 people every Tuesday night. He's not only one of our most reliable workers, but he takes on the nastiest and most thankless job on the crew, scraping plates and sorting silverware. As in all things, Terry is not there because he's seeking recognition or thanks. He is there simply because That's who he is, someone who sees a job that needs to be done and jumps in to do it. You heard Tim comment about Habitat for Humanity. Terry has held literally every volunteer position in that agency. Several years ago, New Providence had the privilege of partnering with Maryville College to build the 100th Habitat House in Blount County. I was on that work site one Saturday morning and got into a conversation with Terry in which he told me that he had worked on every single one of those 100 houses. Now that was a couple of years ago before Terry got old. He had to have hips replaced and rotator cuffs stitched up and Achilles tendons repaired, but he is back on the job now and looking forward to spending the bulk of his retirement providing affordable housing through Habitat for Humanity. I should add that every Friday night during the fall you can find Terry in the church parking lot, parking cars for Maryville High School football games. $3 to park, and all the proceeds are dispersed to local charities or for disaster relief efforts. If you don't happen to have 3 singles, Terry will be happy to take that $20 bill out of your hand and thank you for your donation. If you're looking for Terry on a Sunday morning, you will find him without fail at New Providence, teaching Sunday school, anchoring the back row of the choir loft, serving as deacon, elder, you name it, every single Sunday. All that is to say that I believe that Terry's life of service grows out of his deep faith. Faith in a God who has not chosen to relate to this world from the perspective of a detached observer, but a God who has entered into human life with all of its joys and challenges, its crushing defeats and spectacular celebrations. A God who came not to be served, but to serve, and who said that the greatest among us would be the servant of all. The Maryville College mission statement says that the college prepares students for lives of citizenship and leadership as we challenge one another to search for truth, grow in wisdom, work for justice, and dedicate a life of creativity and service to the peoples of the world. Let me read that last phrase again. A life of creativity and service to the peoples of the world. After 35 years, Maryville College can claim no finer ambassador. Our lives are richer because we know Terry. This college is a finer institution because of his work. And the world is a better place because he is a part of it. Thanks be to God. And thank you, Terry. The senior seminars that Terry created and taught was called Protest Music and Social Movements of the 20th Century. What else would you expect from an old 60s radical, right? In honor of that, I would like to invite Jay Clark and Keith Garrett, both former students from that course, to come and perform a protest song in Terry's honor.
Y'all give us just a second. Terry, it's big doings, ain't it? You'd what? Rather be on the front porch, I understand. Well, Keith and I have been up there in the upper deck cleaning up all the wine y'all left. We appreciate it.
Well, I guess, Jay called me about a month ago and asked if I'd be interested in coming up here and being part of this. And about 20 years ago, I was a reluctant organics chemistry student of Dr. Bundy's, and but one thing that's pretty interesting to me after looking back over those years is that most of the time that I spent in his office, we were talking about music. And over the years, I've been able to kind of sort of straddle the fence playing music, and also been also a chemistry teacher, and sort of learning from him. And Dr. Naylor's kind of still making me nervous sitting there next to him, but it is an honor to be a part of this and to be able to do something to sort of pay tribute to you tonight. So Jay's picked out a song for us. It's kind of a protest song. So you want to say a little bit about it, Jay?
Yeah, I'll say this too. I came to Maryville College in 1992 from Winchester, Tennessee, and I pretty much spent the last years since then trying to get back to Blount County because I loved it so much. And Dr. Bunde here was my first professor of any kind of environmental science, if you will. And he was also one of the people that suggested that I transfer to the University of Tennessee to pursue wildlife ecology along with Dr. Paul Threadgill. And I cried like a baby when I left my mama to come to Maryville College, but I even cried harder when I left Maryville College to go to the University of Tennessee. And luckily I was on the ag campus, which felt like a small college. And I ended up getting a master's in wildlife and fishery science. I went on to Oklahoma State to get a degree in wildlife ecology, a PhD I might add. And I came back to do a postdoc at the University of Tennessee, and now I drink beer and play guitar for a living. Dr. Bunde has been to my house and sat on my back porch and said, I wouldn't mind being you. So anyhow, Keith and I used to play together. We were here at Maryville College at the same time. We used to play up at Lloyd in the called Coffee House, I guess is what they call it. And we also played over at Anderson Hall a couple times at the little cafe or whatever you call it that they had there. And I also was honored to be asked by Dr. Bunde to do a lecture with him last year on protest music. Now, we're not going to lay it on y'all too hard tonight. I was going to potentially do a song that might run half of you out the room. I don't know. Most of us stretch our minds here at Maryville College. But we're going to do an old number by John Prine called Paradise. And I hope y'all like this one. When I was a child, my family would travel back to western Kentucky, where my parents were born, to a backwoods old town that's often remembered so many times that my memories are worn. Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train is hauled away. Sometimes we travel right down the Green River to the abandoned old prison down by Adrian Hill, where the air smelled like snakes. We'd shoot with our pistols, but empty pop bottles is all we could kill. Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train is hauled away. Where the coal company came, where the world's largest shovel, they stripped all the timber and ripped up the land. They loaded their coal and left the land for wrote it all off as the progress of man.
Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train is hauled away.
Singing. We want Dr. Bunde to come to the stage. Y'all give him a big hand. Come on, Dr. Bunde. We're going to sit here and play with you. Come on. Come on. Your wife says come on. We'll get him to sing the last chorus for us.
Now let my body roll down the Green River. Let my soul roll on up to Rochester down. I'll be halfway to heaven with paradise waiting, 5 miles away from wherever I am. Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train is hauled away.
Everybody, everybody.
This man embodies everything that is good about Maryville College. The Maryville College Medallion is the highest award presented by this college. Recipients are selected by the Board of Directors upon the recommendation of the President and an ad hoc committee. They are chosen on the basis of their exemplary service to Maryville College, their outstanding service to their community and their church, and their prominence and leadership in their chosen profession or career. Dr. Terry Bunde, on behalf of the Board of Directors and in recognition of your exemplary service to this institution, I proudly present you with the 2012 Maryville College Medallion.
Thank you to Tim Poole and to Dean and to Emily, and certainly to Jay and Keith. That was a surprise. My wife said she didn't spill the beans. All I can say is, back in the spring of 1977, when then Dean Carolyn Blair interviewed me, she asked me a question that I have never forgotten. She said, if we don't offer you the job at Maryville College, what else would you do? And I think my answer was, it may still be, I would go get a job selling shoes at Sears because I understand my loquacious nature.
I appreciate the honor. I still don't think that I should be on that row with Arda Walker and Carolyn Blair and Martha Hess and my former neighbor, Art Bushy. But I really appreciate the friendship of all the students and the friendship of all the board members and all my fellow faculty members, and certainly my colleagues sitting at the table with me. Bob Naylor, with whom I shared 25 or 26 years of those teaching years, and Dean Bolden, with whom I shared 31, I believe, of those years. I appreciate it. I'm not so sure I deserve that, but I do appreciate it. And thank you very much. And thank you.